have a lot right now. I'm worried the coyotes are gonna come
And then
in. Yeah.
you can,
Well, that
you're gonna
one's
wanna turn your
facing-
video
they're
on.
holding it all the time.
Nice.
And the other person didn't log in.
There we go. Aren't you waiting?
Okay.
Yeah, so far nobody's logged in.
Okay,
No,
then
I was worried.
Zoom is important because he's gonna take everything from.
Yeah.
I believe all the stuff we already knew. So if there's
Okay,
ever
well,
an
then
appeal,
you-
I
virtually,
really
but
have
nothing.
to- Or
Okay.
like getting land use,
All
like
right.
PG&E, I have to step out
I think you can start.
completely.
Okay, ready? Okay. The meeting of the Citizens Involvement Committee of Monday, June 5th, 2023 is now called to order. I have something that I did not have time to put on the agenda. I didn't ask anybody about this. But Christina, I'd like you to come up here, please.
Get on up in there, Christina. You're in the hot seat now.
Oh, I think she's in a thank you seat.
You screen?
I put this together for dear Christina. It is with great regret that we must accept that you will be leaving us as our city liaison. Through the years, you've shown us devotion, respect, advice, and an attitude of helpfulness to make the Citizens Involvement Committee a more effective tool for the city. You've always been available to help advise us in the operation of an effective committee. Your handling of our financial funds has been an extreme help and made it possible for the CIC and individual neighborhood associations to complete their goals and purpose. You've always been available for advice and help, and have helped the neighborhoods in their mission of communicating to the citizens of Oregon City. We thank you for your help and professionalism through the years, and we will miss you greatly. You're a credit to the city and your profession.
Oh,
Thank
you.
Second that.
I'm gonna miss you all too, so. You've been a fun group to work with, so. Thank you. And you have an amazing new liaison that I hope you'll give all your respect to. She really is she may not have the planner brain that I have, but she is absolutely here to help connect you to the right staff person. So some of them may come back to me or other people on my staff. And other times she'll find the right person in Public Works, just like I did. So she's a great asset.
Well, hopefully she'll last as long with this crazy group as you have. Okay. The first order of business is public comments. We have one from Jim Nacita.
Good evening. How is this? Usually I'm told to do something
can't hear you.
closer or
Can't hear you.
farther. Well, it's on. How about that?
That's better.
How about that? No?
I'm deaf. Never mind, go on. I'm giving up.
How's that? Better. All right. So, my name's James Nacita. I live in Oregon City. I got a number of comments tonight, and I hope someone will take notes because if what I say interests you, you may need your notes. I have two red flags to raise with the CIC. So here's the first one. Back earlier in May at the Urban Renewal Budget Committee meeting, the city manager announced that the Urban Renewal Commission has decided to move forward and challenge our charter in court. And the part they want to challenge is section 59A through F, and I guess E2, even though that's not the topic of what's before the city or the court right now. And they want to take away our right to vote on urban renewal, like we just did with Measure 3597. I can't figure this out. It's kind of like there's no public record of the decision. I have asked around and discerned that It was most likely made in an executive session meeting on January 18th. And what's particularly disturbing about that was January 18th was also the day that they were working on the ballot language for Measure 3597 to send it to the voters. So in public, they were working to allow us to vote on Measure 3597. And in behind closed doors on the very same day, they were moving to extinguish the charter provision that gave us that right to vote. Now, I don't think I've ever confronted something as perfidious as this in my 16 years in Oregon City. And I think the citizens need to be very concerned about this, particularly for this reason. If this succeeds on the part of the URC, and the majority of the URC are city commissioners, then it's going to be open season. We will be nitpicked with one right lost after another. Our pockets will be vulnerable to city pickpockets, and we're in for a very unhappy future. So I'm going to fight this to the degree I can, but I don't think people can rely on those of us who always fight when other people won't fight or don't step in. So what I'm asking the CIC tonight, I have sent a letter to the Urban Renewal Commission asking them that they waive any claimed privileges on the minutes or the audio tape of the January 18th, 2023 executive session meeting of the Urban Renewal Commission, because we have to know exactly what happened. Who were the commissioners in for it? Who were the commissioners opposed to it? I think we have the right, so we can hold our elected officials accountable in the future, and staff also, if anything, like a violation of the Attorney Ethics Code took place during that meeting. And so I'm asking this committee, if you so desire, to tonight add an agenda item to pass a resolution to do two things. This is where you'll need your pens. One is to request that the Urban Renewal Commission waive the privileges, claimed privileges, because I don't think they have anything, I think they've already been waived, of the January 18th, 2023 URC executive session, and disclose that audio tape so we can learn what happened. The second thing I hope the CIC would be considered doing would be to pass a resolution to contact every individual city commissioner. This is not a city commission decision, but every city commissioner is on the URC, to ask and to demand that they, as individual URC members, vote to waive that privilege and release that audio tape. I think it's just like so urgent that this be rooted out and put under the sanitizing effects of sunlight. All right, second red flag has to do with the Park Place concept plan remand by LUBA. The deadline for the City Commission to appeal that is this Friday, May 9th. And again, secrecy. On Wednesday, there is an executive session for litigation. I think it's highly likely that they're going to be discussing the case and whether the city should appeal, and there's a whole raft of explanations and decision-making that has to take place. I'm an attorney. I find that LUBA opinion on the Park Place concept plan to be utterly inscrutable. It's really hard to figure out what LUBA was talking about, what they were doing. And if I can't as an attorney, I'm sure the lay people on the city commission can't either. And likewise with the planning commission. That decision deserves a very detailed discussion in public, and that can only take place meaningfully this Wednesday. So I would also ask the CIC, if you're so inclined, to pass a resolution to request that the City Commission not to discuss that remand in an executive session, but to add that on the agenda item and discuss it in public. Since the Deputy City Attorney is here tonight, maybe some of you can ask her to explain that decision so people can mull it over for 2 days before the City Commission on Wednesday. But Again, that was a very, very important decision. The concept plan is under attack in this decision, and the ramifications are really, really serious. And to make a decision on how to proceed or whether to proceed solely in executive session is just, it's uncalled for. And, get up, stand up for your rights. Thank you all.
Dee, go ahead.
I've been a long time proponent for urban renewal. I've never in my life ever voted against it except for this last time. Thank you very much, Jim Nicita, for bringing out some very important points. I watch all these same meetings that he does. And I watch every single freaking meeting on my own time, and I don't pick up this stuff until I go back and watch a clip. I just have to say thank you very much for a second pair of legal eyes looking at what's going on in our city, because we have an extremely good urban renewal board. I've watched other renewal boards, and I was really worried about how they were spending our money. We've got a really, really good urban renewal board. That can change with an election. And that vote on how they spend the money will change also. I've been waiting for the audio that Jim requested of the executive meeting so I can listen to it. And I'll probably have to listen to it 3 times because I do not have a legal mind to pick out that stuff. And I was raised by legals. So I'm a little bit sharper than some tacks, but not all. So again, I have to say thank you very much to Jim Nicita for bringing up very good points that we have to be aware of. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I do.
Hi.
Okay, go ahead, Bob. You're going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
Well, go ahead. This next item I didn't have for this discussion.
I don't think, I don't know, our charter, CIC, allows us to do these things. We're supposed to be a non-political party. I heard what he said. If that's true, what he is saying, then that should be made aware. But I don't think the CIC, I don't think we have the authority to do that. Aren't we a non-political thing? I don't know.
Requesting public, I mean,
yeah.
is that really political? That's just asking for a public documentation of what's going on. Is that considered political? Anybody? I don't know.
I think
I don't know.
full disclosure.
Full disclosure is not necessarily political, is my point.
I forgot to call the roll.
Oh,
Now that was smart of you, Bob.
Dennis,
Good segue.
Dennis, would you please call the roll?
The hot seat. Okay. Okay. All right, well, Kanima's represented
Yes.
Linda and myself. Caulfield, Dan.
Here.
Elyville, Carla.
Here.
Dee Dee.
Here.
Gaffney, Lane. Lane has no rep. Hazel Groves has no rep. Hillendale, Josh. Here. Sarah.
Here.
McLaughlin. Denise Beasley.
She's not here.
Denise is excused, she's out of town.
Okay.
Will is here.
Will is here, yes. Park Place, Steve, out of town, I believe. Correct, Bob?
Yes, he's out of town.
And yourself is here. Okay, is Emily on Zoom? Okay, that's Rivercrest, and I think that one other, South End, Bonnie. Is Bonnie out online? Okay, that's it, Bob.
Brian
we have Adam.
Boyce from Two Rivers,
Yep.
he's absent.
Yeah, and Adam is here.
And Adam Morrow and. Okay. Personally, I'm a little uncomfortable in proposing anything that I haven't had a chance to research. I just like to have all the facts in place and the ducks in a row. And that's my opinion of Mr. Nacita's proposals. Anybody else have anything else?
I feel the same way. I don't feel like I have any good basis to make any decisions from. Oh, yeah, I don't feel like I have any background or anything to make it a good decision based on what we heard tonight. I mean, it's one person's point of view, and I'd like to have a bigger picture before.
I would, like, we have a commissioner here, Adam Mall, maybe he'd like to comment on what was said in any fashion?
So,
Well, I don't think, I don't think it's appropriate to pursue this any further since it's a political thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider it somewhat a political thing. And again, I've tried over the years to eliminate the CIC being involved in politics, because we got in trouble with that before, so that's where we are. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Adam testifying, because he's on both of those committees, wouldn't be inappropriate.
Okay, so I think the consensus is to not go further with that particular subject. Okay, we'll go ahead with the presentations now. I'm changing things on the order of the presentations. I'm going to have the city attorney, Carrie Richter, first, and then Public Works, and then there's what's not on your agenda, a land division issue on South Lazy Creek. And then the last, we'll discuss the CIC budget. So welcome to our little group here, Ms. Richter.
Thank you. My name is Carrie Richter. I'm the Deputy City Attorney, and I have never spoken before you, I don't think, in many years. So I'm pleased to be here and
better look out.
That's not true. So this, as you know, we're coming up to the start of the budget cycle, and I was asked to come out and talk to you all a little bit about, you're going to get a pot of money from the city in order to each of your neighborhoods in order to provide neighborhood notices. And I was asked to come out and sort of let you know that that is happening. You probably already know that. And that these notices are for neighborhood business, and there are no adopted parameters that the city has about constraining what can and cannot be included in those notices. But you, as you just talked about, neighborhood work is apolitical. And particularly money that the city gives to the neighborhood cannot be used for political purposes, and it cannot be used to support any political initiatives. So when you are putting together your notices, you want to make sure that they are specific to neighborhood business and that they are not attributable or connected back to any political effort. So I have extended our office's support in, should the city or the CIC decide to put together some policies around neighborhood notices. I mean, it's not our job to write those for you. It would be your job to come up with what those policies might be, but with support from our office and to assist in any way that we can, because I know that may not be enough money, but you want to stretch your money as far as you can. And so, you know, whether you want to put specifications on how that money is used, up to you, but the invitation is there from our office to assist. But the neighborhood notice money will be on its way.
I have a question. where would the bill for your services go, to the CIC?
I would think to the communications office of the city, but I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to follow up on that.
Okay.
I mean, the bill would have to be within reason, right?
Well, we can't even afford to send out notices, much less hire an attorney. Any other questions? Okay.
Is there like a draft anywhere that just has like a very simple outline for all the,
I have not
for all
seen,
of us? I mean, I think we should all be following the same rules and regulations, so would it be easy enough to put down a one sheet, like, here's the rules to follow?
Yeah, I've been speaking with the city recorder and Jacob and Angelique about this. Jacob is out of the office right now, but when he is back in office, he is going to look and see if there's any outline that he's found. There is possibly one from a very, very long time ago, and then that could serve as a basis. If that is not found, then there's currently no official doctrine.
Right, like our McLaughlin's neighborhood president is an attorney, so, I think he's very on, but, in case down the road there's someone who isn't, it would maybe just be really good if all of us were following the same outline.
right, and maybe it makes sense to sort of, so many of you have been involved in neighborhood activities for such a long time. What are the 5 things that work for your neighborhood? Right, what has seemed to be what has worked for you, and then maybe that starts the list,
right.
if we can't turn something up.
Carla?
So I have a question. Obviously, we make an announcement on the agenda, usually not on the postcard, that, give you a CIC update, the liaisons for a neighborhood association. For instance, what was presented tonight by Jim Nicita would be a topic, because it's part of the Citizen Involvement Committee. How would you approach that in terms of, because you have to technically not be political, which I never choose to be, but present information?
Are you saying in the neighborhood notice, you would summarize what happened at the CIC meeting?
I mean, once a postcard goes out, nothing would be in the postcard, but you have an agenda. And part of the agenda is summarizing what happened at the CIC. You don't want to be political at the neighborhood associations, but you're going to announce what happened.
Well, I think you can state I think you can state the facts.
Okay.
Without taking a position.
Yes.
We make notices that like Summit will be coming and different developments will be coming to speak. So if someone else is coming to speak, we could put them up. And because we had John Williams come speak.
Yeah, we did.
And Summit, both of those were on complete different, those were political. But we put them on our notice.
Right, I think that I understand it's,
Yeah, I just want to know where that fine line is.
and I can't tell you that this is in and this is out and this is in and this is out. What I can tell you is that we need to be mindful about politics. And I wouldn't, I think that how the neighborhood decides to allow speakers is really up to the neighborhood to decide, and how to present information in a way that is factual, but not persuasive.
Yeah.
I think, that's I think the best advice I can give.
Okay.
Well, I think another fine line here would be that the CIC is an entity of the city, but the neighborhood associations are not. So the neighborhood associations would have more freedom on how they want to conduct their meetings than the CIC, because they're independent.
We just can't use our cards. Yeah, I don't know how to form it, but yeah, I kind of get it.
The cards that the city pays for.
Right.
Yeah,
Anybody else have any
And support or
questions, comments?
non-support of.
right.
Neutral.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Richter.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's see, Public Works, John Lewis.
Hey, John.
Well, I'm here to campaign on behalf of Public Works. The next time, I need some friends in Public Works.
What a guy.
All right, you gonna, let's see.
clicker should be there.
I see it here, the red button or the arrows?
Arrows. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, good evening. It's been a few months, right? I come 3 times a year, 4 times a year?
Supposed to come 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
Yeah.
So we've been hitting that pretty well. Bob gives me a heads up that you're still asking for a Public Works update. So that's what I'm here to give you tonight. And it's a busy time of year, so I put together a pretty lengthy slide presentation just to stay with my reputation as someone who likes to put together PowerPoint slide presentations. It's mostly about what's going to happen throughout the summer, or what's happening this summer. So kind of similar to what we've done in the past. As I was putting it together, I was kind of wondering if this CIC, you've been through several of these. Are you looking for something different for those of you that have kind of heard our presentations? Because if you are, or if this information isn't helpful for you and what you're doing with your neighborhood, I would want to fix that and make sure I bring you what kind of information you're looking for. But because we're so busy with regard to public improvement projects or programs, I thought that's what we do. So hopefully that's what you want to hear about. So I'm just going to go through our 2023 Summer Capital Improvement Program, some of which you may know already, but we'll reemphasize that, and then just a couple of program updates as well. So hopefully you folks all spend a fair amount of time with your trail newsletter. This is an insert in the last issue of the trail newsletter. It's on our standard kind of format. You've seen this, we do this every year. We haven't received too many complaints about it. It does get very, very busy. I don't think we've received any complaints about this that I've heard anyway, because we're trying to convey a fair amount of information. So this is a quick way for residents to know what we've got planned for that summer. So we try and include our paving projects in there, both in-house and contracted paving in different color formats. There's a fair amount of numbers on each of the project locations, and we try to give a little bit of detail about what those projects are. And so, we've got everything from private development, which is highlighted in the gold color, to all the public projects that we have going. And then there's also the I-205 project. We don't often include a lot of projects that other agencies are doing, but obviously the I-205 Abernethy Bridge projects is pretty significant. So we've included that as well. Some of these projects I'm going to cover in much more detail in some other slides as well. So, and the one thing I wanted to mention for those of you that are in Rivercrest, I believe it's the Rivercrest neighborhood, there's a project that's missing from the map on Donald Street. So I just wanted to, I noticed that when I was looking at the map and thinking about some of our projects. So if you, there's nobody from Rivercrest here. But anyway, just for the public forum, Donald Street is a street that we built a sewer line in. We did a sewer line upgrade. By the time we were done with that sewer line upgrade, the street was pretty much destroyed. So we've added that into our paving project for this year. So that's kind of another reason why it's not on the map. It was a latter add. So transportation projects, this is what we call an all roads transportation safety project. That's what ART stands for. And this is a grant that we received in conjunction with Clackamas County to improve signalization along Beaver Creek, pretty much its entire length. So, it's it's actually not its entire length because Beaver Creek's quite a long roadway, but from Maple Lane to Warner Milne. So signal upgrades, signal controller upgrades, connectivity between those signals, so signal interconnect. There's also some work that's going to happen out on 213 with some warning signage to let folks know that, whether that intersection's congested ahead. And then at the signal itself, there'll actually be some smart software that will help to manage when the contract when the signal goes into red mode for vehicles that might be late through the intersection. So that technology's gotten good enough to where if someone is moving too fast on a yellow zone, and rather than having that signal flip under its normal kind of timing, it would stay in that yellow zone for just a little bit longer, and so that those folks could get through the intersection. That's not to say that you should test this.
Breaking the law,
Test this, but we're really trying to avoid fatal car crashes at that location. So,
how many cars would that count through? I mean, I've seen 3 and 4 cars come through on yellows and pinks, really.
Pinks.
Reds.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, Bob, but it's a new standard that I think on some of the busiest, especially the high-speed intersections, agencies are adopting as a means of reducing those high-impact crashes.
It's a $256 fine to go through a yellow light, and it's considered a moving violation, and you have to go to an all-day class in order to get it off your record. I know this.
I was going to ask you.
That's a lot of information there. Just so you know, this was a $1.1 million project. We received a $922,000 grant to do this, and the design work is kicking off now. So I don't have a specific date of when we're actually going to start the project, but in terms of construction, but most of this work you won't hardly notice happening, other than the red box out on 213 will be a cantilevered sign that will tell you congestion ahead or any kind of messaging that they need to do at that location. So.
Have the RFPs already gone out on that and been decided, or where are you?
The consultant has been selected. Can't recall who that is, but yeah, we have yet to put together the scope for the construction phase of that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't have a slide for, but we have a similar but different project. We've been upgrading signals quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years, but there's still several out there, and across the county put together a grant application because they'd like to get all the signal controllers and all the signal heads that don't have the yellow backing plate to them. So if you notice, a lot of our signals have that yellow reflective backing tape on them. It's not just tape, it's more to it than that, but that reflective yellow signal backing, that they're upgrading all those, and they got another grant, a countywide grant of $820,000. And for the city's signals, I want to say there's maybe a dozen of those left that we haven't been able to upgrade. Those will get upgraded, and our city share is $13,612. So that's a grant, or that's an agreement that's on the consent agenda for the next commission meeting, and I'm assuming the commission will approve that because there's a lot of value for not very much investment by the city. So this project has been discussed for many, many years now. It's the Safe Routes to School project on Holcomb Boulevard, which really takes pedestrian improvements from Winston Drive on the, I guess it would be the north, there's not a directional arrow on this map, but it's kind of the northwest side of the street. And so it'll take it from Winston all the way down to the school's existing sidewalk at Holcomb Elementary School. This project will include one rapid flashing beacon for pedestrians to cross Holcomb Boulevard, and then the other one is a developer requirement that they're also going to be that they are contributing to. So there'll be 2 new rapid flashing beacons on Holcomb Boulevard to help students get across the road. And then we'll connect there's a little piece that those dotted lines right there on the other side of the street along Oak Tree Terrace that'll get at least, there's no sidewalks on Oak Tree Terrace up on that upper end, but it's wide through there, so students can walk along the parking strip and then get on sidewalk, walk to the rapid flashing beacon, cross, and make their way either to a bus stop or to the Holcomb Elementary School. And so, that project has been awarded to a consultant who's doing the design work. The design's underway right now and it's supposed to end by the end of the year. We expect construction to begin in late spring, early summer of 2024 would be when we anticipate construction contract bid time. So, and again, that was a $1.6 million grant, and the city's share was $411,000. So we're about a $2 million project, and we're hoping for the best on that one because construction prices are getting expensive. There's a lot on these. I've got 2 slides that look similar. Basically just, there's a lot of colors on here, but we're trying to depict where we're gonna do our summer slurry seal program. And really it's a 4-day project that they come into town and they do put down what we call a preventative maintenance on these streets, just to keep the reasonable pavement in good condition so that water doesn't migrate down through the cracks. So we try and seal them up. If you live or know of one of these streets, you might have seen our crews in there doing what we call crack sealing. So we crack seal with just a mastic that kind of drops down into the crack and seals up that crack, and then the slurry seal comes along and tops the whole thing and just provides what we call a preventative maintenance surface. It looks black, but it's not pavement. It's just a thin, heavy sealer. So again, if you live in any of these areas, I know these maps are hard to read, but we do a lot of public outreach on these just so that folks are keeping their sprinklers turned off and they're not parked on the street the day of the work. So the folks who most need to know about this work are those that use these streets, or that live along these streets and use these streets to get in and out of the neighborhood. So there'll be lots of signage when that happens, but it really is from June 26th through June 29th, so it's not that far away. And this project was just over $200,000 and that's your pavement maintenance utility fee that shows up on your utility bill. And this is just kind of more of the same in different neighborhoods. So there's quite a few streets in the neighborhood. And again, these all showed up in that first map that I shared with you in a different color. These colors are just shown just to depict the different days. And if there's a weather delay on the day that it's planned, they pull those streets, especially if it's just a 1-day thing, and they pull those streets for that day. The next day they hit the street that's scheduled and so on, and then they add that street that got skipped to the end of the schedule, just so they don't mess up all the schedules. They try and limit it. So just wanted to mention, I don't know how many of you have heard, but we're working on a project to build a downtown restroom at the base of the elevator. These are kind of graphic representations that we put together using the photos that we had of what's called the Portland Loo. These are a bathroom that's made in Portland. They're private, but not private enough to where folks want to stay in there longer than what they need to use the bathroom for. So the idea is to place that Portland Loo back far enough to where it won't be in the view corridor of the elevator, because so many people like to take pictures of our elevator. So we're pulling it back. I think we're going to take up about 3 parking spaces down there, and there'll be nice ADA access and sidewalk around it to prevent hopefully prevent a vehicle from just driving off the pavement into the bathroom. So it'll be a raised curb and flat sidewalk around there. And that, by the way, we've estimated at $241,000 for the site improvements, the utility connections, and then of course the pre-manufactured bathroom.
Do you have an ETA on that bathroom?
We were hoping to get it by the end of the summer season. It looks like it's going to be a little later than that, but yeah, that's our hope. Some of you may have heard about our sanitary sewer I&I removal program. I know I mentioned this at the last meeting. In fact, this slide is pretty similar to that. We're pretty focused on the Rivercrest Basin, up and down Lynn Avenue, but we're also looking beyond that. So we're starting to look at projects in the Elyville neighborhood as well. So other neighborhoods are our focus. We're moving pretty aggressively with several pretty big projects. We've got 2 in the queue right now. We just finished the 2 up in the upper end of Rivercrest. And so we've got 2 in the queue and a 3rd one coming as well. We're doing a lot of TV inspection. We're doing a lot of smoke testing. We're putting together plans for construction projects, and then we're finishing up punch lists on some of the Rivercrest projects. So sewer in these areas is a hot topic. And one thing that I don't recall if I mentioned before, but the City Commission adopted a sewer lateral replacement program. So those sewer laterals that are in the defined project area, we're focusing on those and working towards inspection. Well, first of all, getting right to get on people's property so that we can inspect the lateral. And then once the lateral is inspected, we're assuming a lot of problems with those laterals. So replacement of those laterals, whether it be to open cut and dig them out and put in new ones, or utilize some kind of trenchless technology to replace that lateral. So the 2 projects that have yet to start in terms of construction are in the Lynn Basin, and so that basin number shows it's highlighted in yellow and numbered 8. That's the area where we're headed next, and we expect some construction this summer, and probably going to start late summer, early fall. But we're spending about $3.1 million in sanitary sewer projects, and that includes some of the lateral work. And we don't exactly know how many laterals we're going to have to fix. We got to inspect first, but a lot going on there. So we expect over 200 laterals and nearly 13,000 lineal feet of sewer main. And with regard to those laterals, really, again, we've always taken responsibility for the lateral from the face of curb or back of curb to the main line. But we're extending that to as close as we can practically get to the house when there's problems with those sewer laterals. So that's a significant benefit. Some of these laterals are long, some of them are short, some of them are easy to get to, some of them are not so easy to get to. So we'll have to do a lot of evaluation, and when we determine whether or not that work needs to happen on those private properties, it's going to entail some one-on-one conversations with the property owner or tenant or both, and our project lead. So, like I said, this process starts with right of entry forms. We've been mailing those out. You might have heard about those. That gives us the opportunity to, again, put a camera up that lateral and try and figure out what the condition of that is, what pipe type it is, whether it's got roots or cracks or failures of some sort, or if it's maybe some people have replaced those, and so it would be, a new pipe, and we'd be able to take that off the list of projects that need to be fixed. So a lot of work that goes into determining what we're going to be doing with that lateral. We know there's properties that are either on a party line, and those are a challenge for us, right? How do you figure those out, especially if neighbors won't work together to help solve that particular party, or because we'd like to separate that party line, but still may require an easement. Roof drains, if they're connected, we need to get those disconnected. So just recognize that each one of those is going to be different. Some are going to be painless and some are going to be painful. So, but at the end of the day, we're hoping to get a good sewer network that really, our goal is to not only reduce flows to the treatment plant, but we've got some areas where if we don't reduce flows in our main pipelines, we're going to see overflows up in the pipeline network as well. So it's a good program, but it's an aggressive program, and we're moving pretty quick. We've talked about this before as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we're pursuing a EPA loan for investment in our water infrastructure. And there's lots of rehab work that needs to happen there too. We are looking at a total water budget of around 28 million. So 50% of that would be EPA funded through a loan. And so we're moving forward with that. The city did allocate I think it was just near $6 million of the ARPA funding. So combined, that's how we're able to match our 50% for this loan. And that loan is scheduled to close and be presented to the city commission on, too many commission meeting dates, but in July, I want to say it's the July 21st meeting. This is just an example, Claremont area. We've been working in the Claremont area for several years for replacing pipes. That subdivision, for whatever reason, has had a lot of problems. So some of those pipelines, that neighborhood's 70s. So we've got older pipelines in that neighborhood, we've got older pipelines in the city, but whether it was how they constructed it or the pipe materials at the time, we've seen a lot of leakage in that neighborhood. So this will finish that neighborhood with regard to water replacements. And so that's a kind of an example of some of the pipe rehab that we'll be doing for water line work. And it's really not pipe rehab, it's more like pipe replacement. We put a parallel system in and then we abandon the old one. How am I doing on time? Did you guys notice? I'm probably
running out.
Okay. So lots of water work coming up. Malala Avenue, right now we just are in the process of selecting a consultant to put in large transmission main along Malala Avenue that will go from the reservoir site up near Grocery Outlet to the new piece that we put in on the new phase of Malala. So it crosses right there at Beaver Creek. We got to get across Beaver Creek. So there's both large diameter and then there's some 8-inch lines in Malala Avenue we're going to take care of as well. So that's a big project and we're about to select a consultant for that. We just are working through, we just refilled the Henrici Reservoir. We got quite a bit of work done inside the reservoir. We've still got more work to do. But because we're in the high demand time of the year, we had to kind of button that project up and complete the work. So this picture is taken inside the reservoir. There's a circulation. That pipeline helps how that water comes into the reservoir and how that water goes out of the reservoir. So helps with circulation for better water quality. The coating of the tank, if you saw pictures where we justified doing this project, it had a lot of peeling paint, and so that's been fixed, as well as a lot of seismic upgrades in case of an earthquake. So more to be done there, but we're making progress. Lots of grants. I've mentioned a few of them. We've got this bike ped improvements scoping study, basically, along McLaughlin Boulevard, how to figure out how to get pedestrians from 10th and Main to really the mill site. So that's a big project. Planning, I think, Christina, are you on this one? Christina's on this one, so rest assured we've got good input from planning. We've also got the Downtown Quiet Zone project. We're trying to work through that. ODOT has to deliver that project for us. So we're negotiating with them on some costs that they think are more than what we thought. We've got some Main Street ADA improvements. We mentioned the Safe Routes to School and the All Roads Transportation Safety. So good year for grants for Public Works, so we're happy about that. I'll just real quickly remind folks, we do a 5-year pavement maintenance plan. and we're about to do an update on it. We're into about year 3, so we want to get that updated again. So get some new pavement condition index information for our pavement and figure out how all these utility projects are going to interface with our paving projects. We don't want to pave something and then come back and put in a utility project. So a lot of work goes into that, and that's something that we're going to be doing this year as well. And then some of you might have heard about this because we've gotten some pretty good press on this. But we've got a new a new tool that we put in our street sweeper that really the street sweeper operator does their thing. They don't even pay attention to this little phone that's sitting in the passenger side of the street sweeper, collecting data using artificial intelligence information to figure out where our many potholes are. And while I'm not necessarily excited to know how many potholes we have, don't ask me that because I can't tell you how many potholes we have. But what we can do is we can package them up in a particular corridor or in a particular neighborhood and make that work assignment much more efficient for the crews. Or in the case of facilities that we have in town that belong to others, like ODOT or the county, we can package that information up to them and send them a nice work order that says, hey, come visit us. We have some work for you to do in our town. So we think that's a pretty neat tool, and we've been using it pretty extensively. Just a reminder, the Sidewalk Replacement Grant Assistance Grant Program is still out there. It's actually slowed down, and some of that may be because of the summer construction period, or it may be that folks aren't getting enough insight into the fact that we have this program. So be sure and share that with your neighbors. If there's trip hazards due to tree removals, they would qualify for a grant. And lots of details on the website about that, so I won't talk through that too much. I-205 widening project, the big news here is the tolling project that has been moving forward at a pretty rapid speed has been put on a 2-year hold. That said, ODOT and ODOT's continuing to move forward with their environmental assessment work, and so we're continuing to move forward with our opposition to their environmental assessment work, and that's really countywide. I would say the county and all the agencies within them don't always see eye to eye, but on this topic they see they are pretty resolved as a group, and I think that's kind of part of I know that's the reason why the legislature, or the governor, I guess, gave us the 2-year delay. I also can tell you that design work is still continuing on the rest of the project, from Stafford Road to really 213. So I don't know if they're going to stall that, but right now it's in the queue, and we'll see where that goes, because there is a pretty big question about how they're going to fund that. That's it for me. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Quick question on the bathroom down at the elevator. Is that going to be open 24/7?
It will not. It will be open the same hours as the elevator.
Okay.
My question on that, I have a couple questions. The first one on that, sorry, but on that bathroom down by the elevator, is there going to be like some self-cleaning or it being cleaned on a regular basis? Because I can imagine it getting dirty pretty fast because of the all the traffic and everything, and the homeless situation right now.
Wouldn't it be great?
There will be a cleaning service to visit that a couple times a day.
Sometimes
or more if needed.
Well, there's some bathrooms now where they actually sanitize themselves, but that might be too expensive.
Well, we looked at those. We looked at a range of options, and a lot of those that do that are, I don't remember all the details as to why, but they're, one, not readily available in our area. So and then they, what we've heard from others is the parts and pieces tend to change over time, and they become a problem in terms of how to service those. So we stuck with what was local and what's been effective for others in our local area. I know then the new waterfront along Vancouver's waterfront uses the Portland loos, and obviously Portland has several of them as well.
Yeah, I guess as someone who's living in the McLaughlin neighborhood and walks her dogs every day, there are signs of people using outdoor spaces as bathrooms. They have no other choice. So I would highly recommend that there was a bathroom that was open 24/7. I mean, people need to go to the bathroom, and it's a whole lot more pleasant if it's done in an appropriate place rather than in our neighborhood. So just putting that out there.
The last question I have is, it's awesome about the sewage line. I've been telling my neighbors what's been going on when we got a notice in our neighborhood. But the thing is about the road improvements. I've been analyzing a bit because I have part of my curb is chipped and kind of ditched in. The thing that I'm having on Roosevelt Street and Logus and all the way to Division Street is our roads are narrow and you can only park on one side. So what I'm seeing now is more multi-dwelling options possibly. I have a neighbor across the street that may open a preschool. And a lot of the burden of what's happened to my curb isn't my fault. It's all the people who park on the street, and especially if there's a preschool there. Do you have any suggestions, or the city looking at anything differently? Because the hard thing for me is I want to take care of my curb, but I can't control who parks there.
Most of our paving program is focused on face a curb to face a curb, but we have been looking, I want to say High Street's a good example of that, where they're just beat hard, right? And they're falling apart. So you almost have nothing to hold up the edge of the pavement to. I don't know if that describes your curb at all, but I know that Roosevelt, first of all, they're short curbs, right? They're not very tall. And so, yeah, I think if there's an opportunity to fix, so what I've been telling my staff is if we're not looking at that curb and fixing it, it's not a full boulevard, that program wasn't designed to be a boulevard program where you would take and put new curbs and new sidewalks, those kind of things, but do the best we can with regard to replacement of curbs where there's just, where the curb's pretty much gone. Patching curbs has not been successful. We've tried it, all different kinds of materials and adhesion piece. It just, with the freeze and the thaw and the moisture and the impact, like you said, of cars hitting the curbs, it just doesn't last. So it really requires a full-blown replacement. And I'm not familiar with Roosevelt, but I'll take a look at it and see if and when we pave that project. Was that one showing up on this year's list?
No, it's not.
Okay.
The thing that, I'll talk to planning about it when it comes up, but if it does become a preschool, there may be something to look at, like maintenance, just for the fact it would bring more wear and tear in front of my street, in general, or situations like that. Like we have a transitional house as well, and there's a lot of wear and tear that way because as infill happens, and the people, going down, I guess, a little further, on one side of Roosevelt have all the burden of the cars. So, and then we're the ones responsible for the curb. And, I don't even park in front of my house. So, anyways, thank you.
I know you're responsible for your sidewalks, and while we're not as proactive because it's kind of an unfunded mandate, curbs are actually the city's responsibility.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Can I ask one thing, John? I didn't see anything on Pearl Street. As far as the drawing of the lines where Pearl Street seems to be opening up. I called you several months ago.
Oh, you mean on, the other end of.
The short Pearl, Little Pearl.
Right. So we're actually, that's a good point, and I should have gotten back to you, but we are actually going to put in some monitoring wells right there to see how that, we recognize that it looks like it's moving and trying to figure out how much and what conditions, how deep.
Yeah, we watch all the time.
We've seen that, so, yeah.
Okay,
So we
thank
are
you
doing
very much.
monitoring wells along there.
So that'll be all for John. Thank you, John. Our next presentation is Tanya Kelly in regard to the land division on Lazy Creek Lane.
Lazy Creek, Lazy Creek Lane. It is an acre of property and is zoned R35. I just have one copy, but I can pass it around. This is what we're proposing to do.
Thank you.
Sorry. It is a 1 acre piece and it has the original home on it, and we are looking to just divide it into four parcels. And I don't know what else you need from me.
We'll wait, we can wait till,
Okay.
but yeah, this is one of the requirements of a meeting by, with a neighborhood association, but right now Gaffney Lane is no longer active. So this is in lieu of a neighborhood association meeting. And so in order for the applicant to have a complete application, they need to present. So we can
Can
get
you give us a reference point of where Lazy Creek Lane is?
It is across from OC Point in Oregon City.
Oh, okay.
And it now connects over to Gaffney Lane Road also. It is now a
The
through.
city opened it up all the way through, so you can cut all the way through over to Gaffney Lane now.
So it's the other side of Malala from OC Point.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So it is zoned, R35, so we can have, I mean, it can be developed into smaller parcels down the road, but that's not what we're looking to do at this time. We're just looking to get it into 4 parcels.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
That's all we're asking for.
That's all we're asking for.
Dan, go ahead.
On the 4 parcels, are you going to turn them into like a triplex or a fourplex?
Correct. We're looking for like a triplex, duplex, triplex, something like that. There's been a couple added on the road already, and then there's a couple new developments on each end of Lazy Creek. One towards Gaffney, and one right out by the highway by Malala Avenue. So, yeah. So there was a new duplex built 2 years ago, right there.
Looks like we have a handout of some kind coming our way.
Yeah, this is what we're proposing to do.
Are you the owners of the property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question. Have you gone to the planning committee?
Yes.
Yes.
We've done, this is our final step to fulfill our application.
It looks like you have a turnaround in there.
Yes, that's for the fire department.
Has that been approved by the fire?
Well, it has been, we've had a meeting with them and they've suggested this type of thing. And so as soon as we get this checked off, then it will go through all of the approvals through the city. But this is what they were asking for.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. Yes, go ahead.
Are you also developing the property, or are you just selling these parcels?
We don't know. We will probably develop at least one piece ourselves, but we're not 100% sure.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
I was gonna open OC maps so everyone can see where Lazy Creek Lane is, if that's helpful. So I'm just looking,
I'm a little surprised that they only have you doing a 20-foot easement on a road.
For the road going back to the back lot, yeah.
Would have expected them to make you bump that out more.
Yeah, that's all that was required is a 20-foot easement. And they just needed the hammerhead back in the back for the fire truck to turn around.
So what was the address?
13862.
Yeah, it's right by your arrow.
Yep.
Right here, yes.
This one.
Looks straightforward to me.
Does
Anybody have
to
any
me too. I'm
questions?
sure they'll follow all the guidelines the city requires and.
Yeah, we have the land all surveyed, and so we're working towards that. This was just one of the steps, but
Nice area to put some multi or duplexes in.
yeah, I grew up across the street from that property, so pretty used to it.
Okay, I guess that's it.
That's it?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Painless.
Okay, our next subject is a pretty tough one. Our CIC budget. Now, I've submitted a large amount of documentation to the city commission for this next Wednesday's city commission meeting, and I'll present some of that to you. And Linda, I'm gonna have you kind of spread this stuff around for me here. One per person.
Two over there.
Maybe two more. One for Emma and maybe one for
Adam.
Adam.
Like
Wants one too.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You need any more?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And this is the second one.
Okay. Cindy. Cindy, you have four.
You'll look at the first spreadsheet for 2022-23. In the fourth line, the last column, you'll see a budget total of $26,000. The fourth line, the last column. However, if you add that line up across all the neighborhoods, you'll come up with a total of $29,687. Now that last figure is what the CIC has been using, the $26,000. But we've actually had in effect almost $30,000 available to us, if you add those up. So the proposed budget allows $60,000 per year for funding the CIC, which amounts to no increase whatsoever. Absolutely no increase, $200 is all. Because that figure that you're looking at, $26,000, is in fact $29,687. Now, if you look at the spreadsheet for 2018, 2019, which was the second one you were given, the next to the last column shows a carryover figure of $5,000. I've highlighted that with a red arrow there, which represented a contingency fund, which could be used for such things as neighborhood meetings, signs, special emergency meetings, help with special neighborhood events, or any number of unanticipated needs. That's disappeared. In one fell swoop, it disappeared. The next item that I'll be presenting to you, pass this around please, is a summary sheet which shows, well, I'll wait until that gets passed around.
Pressure's no pressure.
Now that summary sheet shows per neighborhood association, the present allocation, projected yearly cost, the deficit, and what's needed to break even. This is information I'm providing to the City Commission. Another handout I have for you which is a sheet which shows areas of possible funding from the proposed city budget. Some of those figures are quite eye-opening and were never presented during the Budget Committee meetings. You'll notice that, and I've referred to the city budget pages, so there's no question about where this came from. On page 31, general fund expenditures, there is a line item reserved for future expenditures, $2,551,000. What are future expenditures? Page 34, special programs, $184,000. Page 47, economic development expenditures, consumer programs and grants, $1,730,000 for the biennium. Now, these figures are directly right out of the proposed city budget, and I can't believe that the Budget Committee couldn't find anything, but they didn't look into all these details that I've looked into. These details were not even brought up during the budget hearings. So anyway, I'm going to be presenting this stuff to the City Commission. They already have all these documents as attachments to their meeting. So there should be no question about where I'm coming from. The fact is that we're not getting any more money is quite upsetting. The fact that every single one of the city commissioners and the mayor have all told me at one time or another that they believe the CIC needs more money. But we don't get any. So anyway, and it's also been brought up that all we use is the postcards for notifications to the citizens. So, you know, and that's a point well taken. You know, it remains, the fact remains that that's the only way we can be assured to get every single household, the only way of communications. But there are others, and we have to face a hard, cold fact here that we may not get what we've asked for. We may not get what I'm asking for, so we have to figure out other ways to communicate with our neighbors. Now, I've given this some long, hard thought here, trying to come up with means of communication, and I'll hand this out. These are the ideas that this poor old brain of Bob's has come up with, and I'll read this now even before you get the handout. School newsletters. I've spoken with some of the schools. They all have newsletters. And I'm sure that they would be willing to include our notifications of our neighborhood meetings in their newsletters. Of course, we're coming to the end of the school year now, so you wouldn't have anybody to coordinate with. But it's an idea that, you know, another way of getting information out to the neighbors. Of course, it's only the people with school children, but it's some of them. Local bulletin boards. If you have, like in our Park Place neighborhood, we have Steve's Market there, and they've always been willing to let us put notifications up on their bulletin board. I'm sure that most of you probably have businesses that would let you distribute this information for you. A-frame signs. Now, I've been told by Linda that their A-frame signs that they had made up were quite effective. They work good. And they haven't been stolen. Maybe I shouldn't have said that in public. But anyway, it's a means of communications. We have, in Park Place, we have some like realtor signs that we stick around. So those are another thing. Churches. Now, pass these around. I have a list of Oregon City schools for you. And I also have a list of churches for you. That, again, they might want to make announcements during their Sunday services, or they have the bulletin boards, you know, whatever the pastor or whoever it is that you talk to allows you to do. It's a means of communicating to another part of the community. And of course, there's always email lists, but those are limited. We have an email list in Park Place. I think it's of about 175 people out of, 1,300 homes or something. So, you know, those are somewhat limited, but it again gets you to a certain segment. Facebook, Instagram, those are all means of communication that each neighborhood has to make their own decision about using. But there are possibilities. Now, I'm wide open to any other ideas that somebody might have to add to this possible means of communication. Dan, you have your...
Oh, I was going to, let me go over what you're working on right now. I think we need to work with the city and their website and the newsletter, electronic newsletter, the publications. So the publication gets, some people don't even get on the computers, but you got an excellent list here.
Another item that I have a question to the city recorder on how to do this is announcements in the utility bills, inserts into the utility bills. I haven't heard from him yet. He's away apparently. Yes.
I do know, last time planning did one, it was about $1,000 and it came out of our budget. And so we worked a couple months ahead of time because they have a schedule of who gets what month. And so we would be thinking about a future month ahead of time and then deciding if this is the money you would want to take out of your funding and what you would want to put in on it. You basically get a page.
Well, then that $1,000 would probably be distributed amongst all the neighborhoods because...
Could be. I think it's just a...
Well, actually, no, just the neighborhoods for that month, I guess.
It would just be the choice of how you wanted to use it, but those are hot commodities. So a lot of departments are trying to figure out, when can we get a month in the So I would probably start out with a joint one.
Yeah.
And then you can work with Emma and she can work with utility billing on, we're going to be in the X month, and then approve what the flyer looks like, and then work with Emma on.
Yeah.
And in the CIC approving the monies that would need to pay for it. And I say $1,000 because that was a couple of years ago, so Emma can give you the updated dates, but it was about that. It's about 1,000.
Okay, so these are just, of course, suggestions. Does anybody else have any other ideas? Will.
I feel like the information circle is bad. I mean, we have our meetings, and then if you don't attend, how does that information get out to the rest of the neighborhood? And would there be a way of having that information on, could we have on the city website an easy, I know that the minutes are sometimes downloaded, but I don't know if there's a requirement for all the secretaries of each of the neighborhoods to download the minutes. But, it'd be great if you could just click on a little tab on the city website that said, McLaughlin, like have all the neighborhoods and then click on your neighborhood and you would know what was going on and what had been said. I don't think that doesn't seem like a big thing. Or we have this great app where, my OC, could we have like a little neighborhood tab, what's going on in my neighborhood? Like I don't know how hard that would be. I'm not super tech, but how can we get the information that we're gathering and that we talk about, how can we get that back to the neighbors who don't necessarily come to our meetings for whatever reason? I feel like there's this little group of us who knows exactly what's going on and we're really, really involved. And it would be great if we could expand that so that, we could get new people involved and caring about our neighborhood. Anyway, so just...
It's difficult to get people to come out of their comfort level.
Well, especially after COVID, I think people are really,
yes.
we just kind of got used to being on our own and it's going to take a little shove to,
I'll tell you one thing that will get them coming in droves.
ice cream.
Well, ice cream, okay, that'd get me there. But land use issues, that will draw people like, bees to honey or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So that's what I have put together. Dan, go ahead.
I believe the city does have web pages for the neighborhood association. Maybe I'm wrong.
They do, but it's not super, it's not super user friendly.
Okay.
It doesn't scream out, oh, just come quickly read this. It's, anyway, I just, yeah. And like our neighborhood hasn't been updated in years. So, yeah.
Well, a lot of the stuff, of course, it all boils down to how much money we have. But, that's pretty simple. But this information that I gave you tonight it boils down to being an individual neighborhood association responsibility.
Yeah.
And if you have to form subcommittees or you have to take it on yourself, or your self-initiative or whatever, why we have to use every means of communication possible to get the information out to the neighborhoods. Emma.
Can't turn my name tag over, so I had to raise my hand. I am 1 year out of school, so I'm used to it. Moving forward, I will be updating all of the websites. I am taking that over. And so for everyone that is worried about updating their site, I do want to speak with each individual representative because your information will be what I use to update the site. So having personal meetings for what is going to be put on the site would be the best way to do it. So that will be up to each individual neighborhood association to make sure that that happens. I'm available.
Thank you.
Jared wants to say something.
Yeah. Can Jared say something? Bob? Can Jared approach?
Yeah, go ahead.
He wants to say something.
All right, for those who don't know me, my name is Jared Lyman. I'm the communications manager for the city of Oregon City. This has been a topic that Emma and I have talked about a lot, trying to figure out ways that we can help you get the word out more that are both effective in terms of reaching people and effective in terms of not making an impact on your budget. There are some other opportunities that we might be willing to look at. I'd love to maybe converse with some of you at some point on ways that we can help, whether it's using the city's Facebook page, announcing regular meetings. You mentioned the utility bills. Something else I thought about where maybe we could possibly do like a quarterly or an annual or something listing all the meetings that are coming up to, again, get it out there to everybody, but also not do as big of an impact on your budget at, you know, $1,000 a mailing and so forth. So perhaps at some point at a future meeting, if you want to put on the agenda a chance to maybe brainstorm some ideas, a work session where we can go over that, I'd be more than happy to try to help you out on that and see what we can do.
Thank you. We appreciate all the help we can get.
The power of social media is great, I'm sure, for anyone who follows Jared's regular Facebook updates on the Oregon City Facebook page. Lots of engagement on there, so always a great tool to use.
Carla?
My setback is I have a lot of elderly in my neighborhood, and I have a very diverse, if you look at what the deficit is, my neighborhood is the biggest. And we have a lot of people in my neighborhood, new, old, historic. My problem is I have a huge population in my neighborhood that don't get on social media, that may not have a cell phone. So I'm limited to what gets communicated, and I only have so much time and resources. And so anyways, we were talking about having the signs at certain residents, like we have maybe someone on Lynn Avenue, someone on Barclay Hills Drive, and putting them out the day of the meeting. But I'm limited, and I basically just had a meeting on May 9th for PG&E to look at extending their operations so that they can help support the city in terms if there's a fire or a natural disaster, and I couldn't get postcards to anyone. And it was a nice day and no one showed up. And I had a steering, had a baby, my secretary couldn't be there, so I had to head the meeting. And technically, if they go against me, I'm a planning commissioner. So, we're limited, and over $5,000 deficit, I can't get it out to everyone. And there's a huge population not on Facebook or Nextdoor.
We could look at our own city sites and see how many views we have on city meetings and surveys. Most of the decisions are made in this town by under 200 people. We have more than that in our neighborhood, and they're just, and we really hammer and like and push all of our announcements amongst each other, and I always feel like we're still looking around the same 8 to 10 people.
Well, I have been working to try to get the inactive neighborhoods become active again. But if we don't get an adequate amount of money, I'm going to stop that attempt. Because with the way we've spent it in the past, even borrowing from the inactive neighborhood associations, which is kind of a bad way to do it, we're still close to running out of money. So if we don't get any more money, I'm just going to stop any efforts to try to get any of them.
And you have hours into this, Bob. I mean, hours. I attended 2 of the meetings with you, and you've attended 4 budget meetings, and really got kind of railroaded over at the meetings. But anyway, I want to thank you very much for hours upon hours of your work.
Adequately enough, I guess. Linda?
Well, I think we just really need the budget increased. We're totally robbing Peter to pay Paul, and like you said, we can't expand our neighborhood meetings without more money. And yet, I sit here and look at the city commission goals, goal 4. If that's really a goal, they need to fund this, it's just, and they have all this other money of the things they're doing, their contingency plans. Kenema, we're the smallest one in all of us, and we're out of money.
Yeah.
And I did go to talk with the post office about our little flyers that we have, what their costs, what they are, and the postal department said, they're having an increase in postage here in the next 3 months. So that
We didn't even get a postage increase with our budget.
I know, that's just what
That's what I'm saying.
Just there, it's just not enough money for this, so, I mean, they need to pony up or take off goal 4.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Josh?
I was, talking about the city websites and mailing lists and all that kind of stuff. I know I personally had signed up for like emails having to do with the neighborhood and everything, which we don't have any. We don't seem to communicate that way. thinking of other ideas of lower cost and all that, could we possibly get an idea of how many people are signed up on those lists?
There's various lists, but yeah.
Yeah, like the neighborhood association list, that might give us an idea of how many people we could outreach to through those email groups, or those email lists, right?
I'm not familiar with the neighborhood groups, so it's something I'd have to look up.
Okay. Thank you.
Last thing I wanted to mention, I watched some of those budget meetings and Bob working really hard, and I know here the city staff support us, they come, but I really see a lack in the city staff leadership really taking an initiative to really try to support the neighborhood associations and the CIC. And that's really concerning to me. Like when Bob was talking, it's just like, we're getting shut down. And none of us really understand that general budget. It's complicated. And it's not easy as an observer to go to the budget page of the city and comprehend all the little categories. So in any case, I don't see the city staff leadership really caring about the neighborhood associations or the CIC or trying to make something work.
Dan?
In the Caulfield Neighborhood Association, we've got 473 homes coming online within the next year. I predicted we're going to have another 253 homes coming in over the next 2 years. My budget, I feel right now was pretty close to $21,000 for 2 years for just which new stuff is available and this stuff that's coming online. So this budget, I need a third of the budget, and I'm sure everybody else is going to have numbers similar to that. That's sending out the small little card.
I referred to the $5,000 carryover on that one spreadsheet. And in my request, I've requested a little over $8,000 to be put into that carryover fund. We just, whatever amount of money we get, we just have to be very, very, very conscious of the amount of money we have available and be miserly. I know when I was chair of the Park Place Neighborhood Association, why I looked at our total budget and it was more percentage-wise than it is now because of fewer residences back then. But I broke it down and I figured out how much it was going to cost us for each mailing. And I thought, well, I've got to cut back here, I've got to cut back there to stay within that budget. Now, I know this is not going to be a popular statement that I'm going to make right now. And so be it. But some of the neighborhoods may not be able to have as many meetings as they've had historically. That may come to be a fact. Park Place, we have 3 a year. It seems effective. Some of you have 6 a year. You might have to cut it down to 5 or 4 in order to put it into the budget. But that's a fact of life. If you've got a certain income coming into your home, and if you keep spending over that budget, pretty soon you're in jeopardy. And it's the same thing here. We have a budget. We've got to live with what we give us. But hopefully, knock on wood, you're going to come across with more than a zero amount increase. I mean, that just ticked me off no end when I figured that out. I thought, whoa, somebody is not recognizing the importance of the CIC. And don't get me started because my blood pressure is going up. What else can I say? Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
We're struggling. We're gaining ground, but we're struggling. And every time when I put it out, we have a little Facebook page, nobody looks at it. We put it up on Nextdoor, we put it up in OC, Facebook page, just anything we can grab for social media. Every time we have people that, come together with us, I check, where did you know about the meeting from? Every one of them says the postcard. Well, in my way of looking at it, the postcard is highly inefficient. We're sending it out to, everybody, and there's not everybody that's interested, and it's tiny, and it's not very attention-getting, et cetera. So when you're a struggling group, it's tough to get some traction. But the postcard seems to be the only thing that people are telling me they're seeing. And I want to know from the rest of you, are you getting better traction with social media or anything else? No?
No, we had a huge argument in our neighborhood about whether we should send them out or not. And basically, it was the postcards that got the biggest draw. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So
And we have the
really,
exact
we should
same
have,
thing.
our budget should be whatever
Our needs are.
whatever number of houses you are times,
Yes.
the
Yes.
cost of mailing or whatever.
Yeah, I know we've had, I don't know if there are formalized research on what the most effective means of communicating with the people is, but I know that the postcards have always been at the top of the list.
Yes.
And that may be because if you throw enough stuff against the wall, some of it's bound to stick. But the postcards reach every single household in the city, so.
And you have to join social media in order to follow it. You've got to click the follow button and you have to follow it. If you're not, I am not involved in every single neighborhood here, although I do watch Park Place because there's things that happen in Park Place that need to be watched. But I'm not watching every other neighborhood, just my own and a couple of others. And other than that,
Dan?
Here's the little cards everybody talks about. Here's the one that I just did. We had 5 new people come in because of this card. We can have a lot more information on it. We can have the whole group has maybe an idea for their group added to everybody's card, say, we're looking at the roundabout and somebody else is looking at the riverfront. Get together and get more information out. This particular one cost me $160 more to do this than this card. If we would have went to Pamphlet Media, it would have been cheaper than this card. And the people came in and said, hey, the reason we're here is because the color card got their attention.
it's a nice card.
Yeah, we got 30% more people at our meeting.
Well, again, we have to work with the money that the Budget Committee and/or the City Commission allots to us, so. Anybody else? Okay, the next subject is minutes approval. There's quite a list there.
Yep.
We'll need to have a motion and a second to approve or disapprove those minutes.
I usually am the first one to motion, but I didn't go back and read each one.
Oh, okay, yes, I was asked, do we have any discussion about any of the minutes? Okay, I need a motion.
I move we approve the minutes that were sent around in the agenda as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded?
I'll second that.
Okay, Dennis seconded, I think.
Justin.
Oh, Josh, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Okay, motion passed for all those minutes. Good. Staff liaison update.
Hello. The first update I have is that is the last batch of old minutes that you need to approve, per Angelique, so yay. And then the only other, update was the June postcard budget that I attached to the agenda packet. I am not sure if anybody is sending out any postcards before the end of the fiscal year, but that attached budget is updated so far. So any other postcards that would be sent out can be sent to me, since I am doing that now. And I believe that is truly all I have for you at the moment.
Does anybody have any postcards they're gonna be sending out that they need money for?
We do too.
Well, if we've got two that need more money, how much money?
Yours today.
Okay, they just got our order today.
I think we had money left for this round.
I don't think.
Yeah, we, according to our budget for Tower Vista and Hillendale, we'd pretty much be right there at that.
Yeah,
At that
right
level.
at it,
So you'll be right,
right at the limit.
I think
be-
we're over.
you'll be fully expended.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Bob, I won't need mine because we're not having a meeting this summer until, after July. And I asked for, more money, but what happened was we already had to put a land use and postcard out, so I won't need mine.
Okay. So that's been withdrawn.
We need money. We were already out of money.
Okay, do you know how much?
It's $120.
$120?
Well,
Oh, jeez, I don't know.
Ouch.
You want my credit card?
Not really, we could.
So $120 to Kenema from the, whatever leftovers we have from the other inactive neighborhoods. We should still be good for that. And then that should be the end of the fiscal year, right? Okay, so you haven't asked for it, you don't get it.
okay.
I think
You're out of luck.
I think we may, because I'm pretty sure we have a meeting in July, so I need to check with our powers that be.
Okay, then communicate with Emma and she'll take care of that for you. Okay. Roundtable. Start with, let's see here, is Bonnie with South End, is she with us today? Okay, Rivercrest, Emily?
Not here.
Okay, Bob LaSalle with Park Place, I don't have anything for the good of the order. Will, what about McLaughlin?
We just had our steering committee meeting a couple of days ago. Lots of good discussion. We're actually going to get together and have a retreat because we feel like there's not enough time to discuss all the little ins and outs of everything. At our next meeting, we are hoping to have the city Public Works come and talk to us about all the lateral, because within our old, that's going to affect a lot of us, me. And what else did we chat about? Yeah, that's about it. That's the bulk of it.
Josh, Pillendale.
I don't really remember a whole lot. Oh, we talked a lot about communications at our last.
We did. It was kind of a bust of a meeting, if you really want to know, but Mayor McGriff made it.
Denise was there.
Yes.
That was good. We also, the following day, went out to, we had the courthouse meeting and update from them, which was a little rushed and a little,
It was less enthusiastic than it was the first time. Less
Yeah.
polite and cordial and courting the neighbors.
yeah. After about 45 minutes, they were about ready for us to just
They
leave.
wanted us
so-
to leave, yeah. They pretty much did, yeah.
And it was not William's fault, just want to say that. But,
No, it wasn't.
yeah, that's really about it. We've got another steering committee meeting tomorrow. And, I did want to ask one question, though. Are we planning on having a CIC on July 3rd?
No.
Okay.
No July 3rd, no July CIC meeting.
And our meeting is supposed to be on the 4th, and we haven't discussed how we're handling that, whether we're,
Yeah, I guess that's what we're doing tomorrow.
that's what we're doing tomorrow. Okay, now you're up to speed.
Emily, you had something?
I realized one big thing that we did for, we had to discuss whether someone got, whether we gave the go-ahead on someone's Airbnb, application for their, and we realized that there's a big disconnect between how things are written in the, and, whether someone's living at their house, whether now with all the vacasa, and, there's there's just a lot of, I think the code needs to be brought up to date. We're all concerned about having, I don't think anybody has a problem with someone using part of their house to Airbnb if they're there and they're monitored. It's the, is someone using their place and then not there, and then is that the party house of the neighborhood? And, how do we stay ahead of, an issue, and the people who were applying for it are absolutely following every single step that they ought to. So you don't want to, I don't know. Yeah. So it was an interesting discussion. So.
Those that are applying.
Yeah.
My neighbor was going to, she was boasting about how her house is going to be an Airbnb. I just sent her a link to our website and said, give this to your Airbnb host to make sure they're following the law. And it's not an Airbnb because it was a rental.
Right.
And so people are using their rentals as Airbnbs too.
Right. And
which
it's destroying communities. I mean, it's, when these, I don't know, I can't get off my soapbox, but I just think when people are buying up huge tracts of land and then just, using them as vacation homes. You see it all along the coast. And I don't know, there was a big article and Kevin sent it to me. We're now considered a vacation destination.
We are vacation next.
So,
we are within other San Diego.
Yeah, so Oregon City, yes.
I had a woman from San Diego who had her vacation home here, and I went, no, we go to you. She goes, no, you got the fishing.
We're downtown, the whole, people love this town. It is. So.
That's
just
pretty
saying.
cool.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great, great news. The word's getting out.
Right, but we need to stay ahead of that.
We do need to stay ahead of it, because
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, next would be Emily from Rivercrest.
Not here.
Oh, she's not here.
No.
That's it. Anybody else, anything? Linda?
We didn't. Elyville.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. I was going in the opposite direction here. I got confused. Caulfield. Kenema.
Kenema.
The other seat.
We now have 3 Kenema members who are trained for the library security, because we're now using the Oregon City Library for our meeting places, and they had to go through security. So we now have 3 members who are trained for that. And Kenema joined with the cemetery for a cleanup and preparation of the cemetery for Memorial Day weekend. And we got the word out from that by using our A-frames with a little flyer on it. And we had a very good turnout of Kenema residents who volunteered to help the cemetery. If you didn't get up there, it's just a real special place. And I think Kenema is going to be joining with the cemetery people and join forces, because they're very small as well. And people get old, move away, and no longer able to do this.
People are just dying to get there.
Yeah, they are dying to get there.
I hear the boos.
Yeah. And we're having a meeting this month. I don't have my calendar with me. 15th, okay.
Okay,
I could add one thing.
Yeah.
Denise Beasley was also in attendance with the library training, and it was very good. It was like, I was quite surprised. You'd think show you the locks, give you a key, figure out how to close the curtains or whatever. I thought it was going to be rather simple, and yet it was more involved and actually pretty informative. They had a gentleman from within the library circuit, Garth, and he gave the instruction. It went for an hour and a half or more, and it was quite thorough, and I thought it was pretty beneficial. And the issue that was surprising is the issue related to the responsibility to the library, the responsibility to your neighborhood, and the responsibility for opening that up and being a magnet for issues that would relate to like people who just dropping in and how to handle that. There was good instructions on dealing with things that might get out of hand in terms of people coming in and wanting to sleep or disrupt. And so all in all, kudos to the library in terms of like their intent in making it a responsible kind of thing, a venue for neighborhoods to use. And Denise was a part of that. She also mentioned that there were 2 other people from McLaughlin.
I'm supposed to be on there, but I'm at the
So I think there's
coast.
gonna have some more training.
Right,
and that
I'm
would
at the
be
coast all summer, so I can't do it.
Advantageous
Yeah.
to be a part of that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Elyville, Carla?
So we, on May 9th, had CERT come, which was very informative on fires and natural disasters. We also had PG&E present about they're wanting to, they're actually looking at, in the future, extending their operations so that they're able to meet the needs of the community. Right now, they're looking at changing some code wording, and then eventually they're looking at trying to buy land further on Warner Milne and open their operations so that they're able to meet the needs of the community if there's a fire or power goes out or, you know, transmitter goes out. And then we didn't really have as many people because it was sunny that day, and I didn't have postcards. You know, I didn't have the budget, and by the time it was approved, I already had postcards out. And then we also, we were discussing just current events and what was happening in the neighborhood. And so we're not meeting again until we're gonna have a steering in August, then we're gonna have an ice cream social, and then we'll have a full-on meeting in September, because I've noticed attendance in the summer is really slow, and I want to save on my postcard budget.
Dee, did you have anything else? Not good. Dan Caulfield.
We had a CERT meeting and found a lot of information about it. We have wildfires and what to do and how to get involved and be able to help your neighbors and so forth. We had talked about the circle driveway or circles turnaround over by Albertsons, and someone brought up a point that there was going to be an access to Highway 213. Somebody else brought up a point that there's the state of Oregon has a circle thing going on at Beaver Creek and Highway 213, a project, but it's been keep pushing forward, and I don't know why I didn't want to put a circle turnaround on 213, but got into some really good local issues, and a lot of people just communicating and getting out to the other people to get more people involved and get more interaction coming to our meetings. That's about it.
Okay. I must bring something up. When you're sending your postcards out, you have to be very, very conscious of the political ramifications. And the CIC came close to getting a black eye because, Dan, your postcards contained your political information.
I disagree with that.
Well, your email or whatever address was on it, they quoted it in the city commission meeting. And then the commissioner that brought it up went further and referred to it, and it referred to your campaign for mayor. So that kind of thing absolutely cannot be on these neighborhood postcards. That little issue, I hope the city commission realizes that it was not a CIC thing, you know. And I know that Emma, in the future, you will be reviewing all the postcards and those kind of political insertions and whatever just cannot be part of the CIC. We have to remain politically inactive. As much as we'd like to do something, and please, Adam, make sure that the rest of the commission knows that that was not a CIC thing. We don't want to get a black.
We want our money.
Yeah, pass that on too.
More of it.
Yeah.
I want it
More
too.
of it.
So when you're putting there your information you're sending out to the neighborhoods, although it's a fact that the neighborhood associations are not an entity of the city, the CIC is.
Dan, Bob, can I speak?
Yes.
You know, I think, Dan, your website, when you click on it, looks like the the Caulfield Neighborhood Association website, but looks like you built it on your old web address. So I think that's the key piece, was that you may want to look in and create just a new Caulfield Neighborhood
Well, yeah.
Association address.
I
think
have
that's
a new webpage up
I
now.
think
It's-
that's the problem, was that it was just built on something that was political. Whereas I think you look at the front page of it and it's just showing the basic information about Caulfield, but that's where the confusion lays. So I think it'll help Caulfield in the future. Just get a new web address for it.
And all of that stuff has been changed, and there's now a Caulfield website, cfnaor.com. Just
Good, great. That's, stuff happens sometimes. We're all human. It happens. Too bad. We'll forge ahead.
Agreed.
Yeah. Any other information?
Adam?
Oh, I'm sorry, Adam.
No worries. So I've got a pretty good list and I'll try to keep it short. The first is that the big focus of the commission recently has been the budget, which I appreciated sitting in on this conversation because I also said when we were going around the table, and keep in mind that I am one of 10 budget committee members, that I did not feel that the $8,000 per biennium increase was sufficient. And so I appreciate, Bob, that you came down. I think part of the issue was that trying to figure out what the official number request was difficult for the committee. I went back and rewatched it today, and all the back and forth, it was difficult to figure out what the official ask for an increase was, because looking at the public comment that was submitted for this Wednesday, was lesser than what we had received as a committee for a request for increase, which would have been, I think, around 120,000. And so at the same time, while we were hearing from people passionately arguing for more increased funding in parks, in drug abuse prevention, it was difficult having the first number out of the gate be in effect a quadrupling of the budget. And so, and since it was already brought up, I do think that among the commissioners, when Commissioner Mitchell brought up the Caulfield postcard issue, that it raised some concerns among the commissioners about where the line is for that political activity, because regardless of what the content of the website was, the fact still remains that vote was still in the web address, and that the subheading for it said vote for the candidate that it used to belong to for the election. And so that did raise a lot of concerns among the commission. And so I think all of these things as an umbrella over this bigger discussion about increases in budgets is something to keep in mind. And I will also note that even though I still believe that this budget as proposed with the $8,000 increase is not enough, that the discussion that was happening here tonight about innovating ways that we communicate with our neighbors is something that should happen regardless of what the budget is. That's what we're doing as a city for every single department, where inflation and supply chain issues and the increase in labor costs are all increasing or decreasing our ability to spend taxpayer dollars wisely. And I went into those budget deliberations with the intent of not increasing taxes, which is what the current budget does. It was brought up by the mayor that we have just like I said, we have a lot of increasing costs. But as I said to her, just as the city is facing a lot of increasing costs, every single family in Oregon City is facing increasing costs. And I wanted to be very vigilant with how we used any, if at all, any increases in taxes. And so that was at the front of my mind there. So, and I will also note that the budget allocated to the CIC does not include the fact that for the first time we've allocated a staff member dedicated solely to community volunteers in the neighborhoods, which I think is a big step forward for our community. And that, of course, arose from my work with the Youth Advisory Commission position. And then lastly, on a separate note from the budget, on some more policy things, I just wanted to give you an update. I went to a retreat this weekend with the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee. That's a committee that's administered by Clackamas County, and each city in the county has a representative there, and we meet once a month to coordinate on regional issues. And so that was a very, very good opportunity, especially because this was our first in-person meeting that I've been able to attend for that committee, because it's all been on Zoom since I've been on the commission. And so the two topics of discussion were homelessness and tolling. So first on the homelessness issue, I was diligent. Yes, Carla?
Oh, go ahead and I'll ask when you're done.
Okay. On the homelessness issue, there were a lot of cities that were airing their complaints, but I made it very clear to them that Oregon City is not the repository for everyone else's homeless issues. Someone suggested the idea of creating a dashboard to see what other cities are doing to combat this issue. And when I said it is that this should be an educational thing. This should not be a directory for cities to shirk their responsibilities and figure out what one city does and direct them over there. And of course, I'm talking about Oregon City as the county seat. There's been a lot of discussions recently about the proposed navigation center over on Main Street. And I have a lot of questions about that. And actually, as our budget outlines, we have decided to revoke what was originally intended to help finance that because there's this group, the Homelessness Solutions Coalition of Clackamas County. I need to be able to see what else is being done across Clackamas, just in Oregon City, to address this issue so that we're not becoming the spot where everyone is sending their homeless. And I've heard from our police that they interact with other police departments, and this is something that happens. And so on the housing and homelessness issue, some people came up to me afterward and said they understood, but that I may have been a little fiery in my presentation of that issue. And then the other thing about the tolling, we all know that the governor has decided to pause tolling until 2026. I just want to caution that that is not something to celebrate. I think that it is, I think it's actually genius of the scheme they chose to pause tolling because all of the momentum that has been built up among community members, not just in the metro area, but across the state, who realize that this is not just going to happen in the metro area. ODOT has said they want to do every corner of this state. That if we become all right with the fact that, oh, we've got 2 years, I can take a deep breath, we cannot do that. And I hope that you will impress that upon your neighbors so that this isn't just something that our elected officials can use as a cushion for their next election, because they know that this is a deeply unpopular way to finance what we all know is a loss in transportation funding that we do need to figure out how to fund. But with this issue, I just want to express again that this is great news for us in the near future. But don't think that this isn't something that's still coming down the pike with as much energy on their end. What they're expecting is less energy on ours. So that's what I have to add on that. And so, question.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, and it's not going to be political, particularly. I'll make sure it's about, something was mentioned earlier, and we were talking about taxes not going up, right? So we're looking at taxes here, not anything else. Obviously, there's more expenses. The city has a burden, parks. Isn't our property taxes technically going to increase a bit because to try to cover those costs? And number two, urban renewal is talking, and this is not political, this is fact, this was at the budget committee, so I'm not getting political, was talking about obviously trying to continue for the next few years, which may cost us on our property taxes as well. Can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Yeah, so the urban renewal doesn't affect the rate of your property taxes. And then the other thing, the question about the increase, the city property taxes that are levied for the city stays flat at 4.407 per $1,000 assessed. And so while there are other things that your property taxes go to, the rate that the city was looking at that goes towards city services, we decided to keep the same.
But is it, I mean, the money has to come from somewhere to continue to at least, it's obviously the voters voted, but not that we're talking about that, but the fact about the money to continue it, I mean, and eventually it's from taxes that it continues. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to understand it. It'd be nice to have some type of number figure, if we could, presented to the CIC about it in the future, so we have a greater understanding of it.
Yeah.
Dan?
The fire department got their increase in taxes, and part of the money the fire department lost is going to the urban renewal. So even though directly our tax rate is not increased for the whole city, our taxes have increased because we had to give more money to the fire department for them to operate.
Right, and what I'll add is that the ask that the fire department went out for, their increase was a lot bigger. Their ask for an increase was a lot larger than what urban renewal is diverted. And I would also note that firefighters unions are very powerful. And the fact that they did not campaign against the urban renewal ballot measure spoke volumes to me. In fact, that they decided to be neutral on the matter, because to them, the shutting down of the district with those investments made increase the property values and therefore the property taxes that they would receive upon the shutdown of the district. And so before I even formed my own opinions about urban renewal itself, I was having conversations with a lot of stakeholders, and chief among those being the fire departments and the fire unions, and the fact that they decided to be neutral on the matter spoke volumes to me.
On the budget, you referred to the $8,000 increase. Is that the difference between the $26,000 per year and the $30,000, or the biennium of $60,000? Is that where you got the $8,000?
Right, so in the past it was $26,000 per year, and now it's going to be $30,000 per year, which is $60,000 per biennium with an $8,000.
But as I pointed out tonight, that $26,000 figure is absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. It's $29,687,000 per year that has been allocated. The $26,000 in that last column is an incorrect figure. If you add up all the allocations for all the neighborhoods, it comes to almost $30,000 already. Which is the figure we've been using. You know, we deduct out of each neighborhood association. So in fact, the $8,000 is an inaccurate figure. We are being offered a few $100s.
So where did the carryover come from?
The carryover was from 2018-19 of $5,000. But if you look at the spreadsheet, it shows the budget, and it shows one line item is how much is allocated for each neighborhood for one whole year. If you add up all those allocations for all the neighborhoods, it comes to $29,000. I think it was $687 for 1 year. So the $26,000 is not a good figure. It's not.
There may be two pieces of that, sorry. Okay. The 1.87, which is the factor per, So in the previous one, I think it was 1.67. So I think there's two pieces of this. One may be that working with our finance department, that factor may have been off. So I think the first question is it the factor that was approved and therefore what the final number is, or was it the 26,000 and then there was just a wrong factor number? So it's like, it's the chicken and egg question, and that can be a
Well,
finance.
what happened, I've taken the $1.86 per year.
Right.
Per household, times the number of households per neighborhood association. And that comes up with the yearly allocation.
Right.
Which is in that, I think, third or fourth line.
Well, I think the question is with the budget, was it a budget amount or a factor that was adopted? So that I don't know.
It was the amount.
It was the amount.
Of 30,000
So then
per
the
year.
factor is wrong.
Right.
Yes, but the fact is that we have been working off of a $29,000 and change budget. Because as each neighborhood association uses up their budget, it's taken out of their total allocation. Not the total at the end of 26,000, it's taken out of each individual neighborhood.
I just did the math, and if you take the factor for the last budget, so we had a total of 15,961 households, right? And you divide that, you did your 26,000 by that, you're actually at a lower factor. It's like 1.63 versus, so it's lower than it was in 2018, which makes no sense.
So I inherited that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But if that's factors wrong, I can tell you that we haven't gone over the 26,000 since I've been here. We have been, this is the first year we've even been close. So if that factor's wrong, that hasn't, then the CIC hasn't been over budget in the years that I've done the postcard. So if the factor's wrong, that was just somebody gave me an incorrect factor, or it was built out. But if it's the 26,000, I think the key is that, I think what Bob was trying to say was, if all the neighborhoods are active again, that doesn't pencil.
And that's the point that I was making, that and I'm sure you were there when I said that same fact, was that if we want every neighborhood association to be up and running, and not just up and running, but actually thriving and doing what it's supposed to be, then it demands an increase. And so that was why I mentioned the 8,000 per biennium, but regardless, there's no argument that there needs to be an increase, which is what I said straight from the beginning around that budget committee table. I was, unfortunately, again, only one of 10.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Maybe the city manager should present it to us at a meeting, you know?
So we'll finance.
Somebody else would have to ask.
Will finance or whoever redo the sheet then and get the correct numbers? Okay.
I know that Christina and I have talked about these figures on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the problem when you inherit somebody else's work and then you just don't think it through. You just accept the work. So I think that was the question, if it was a factor that the city adopted or the budget. And if it's the budget, then it's the 26,000.
Yeah.
And we haven't yet to date gone over it, but it's been close, especially this year.
And even if it was 8,000 increase,
I just divided.
it's pretty pitiful, absolutely pitiful, to try to keep up with goal one and keep the CIC and in turn the neighborhood associations active and going. The latest figures that I've given to be reconsidered are a break-even figure, a break-even. And if we can't break even, I don't know what we're gonna do.
That's growth in the city and our neighborhoods, and increased cost of things go up, and more active neighborhoods, all of them coming online.
Well, if you look at the budget figures that I've pointed out on those different pages, the references, you can't tell me there's not lots of money available. I don't care what you tell me, you'd have to do a long, hard, strong argument that the money isn't available. That's what I'm gonna say, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm behind you 100%.
Anybody else got any complaints or bitches or anything? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.